Keith Pollock, Level Crossing Risk Manager for Northern Ireland Railways. I've been in my post for nearly 17 years now, and I'm working in the Infrastructure and Projects Division. The four main things I'll be covering today is Northern Ireland Railways crossing information, the management of crossings, mitigation measures, and the safe use of public and private user work crossings. And they'll be followed by Robert McDonald, who will be covering third-party works around the railway. So just a map to sort of indicate where the network runs within TransLink Northern Ireland Railways. And as you can see there's a high population of crossings all over the network in Northern Ireland. So just a bit of crossing information, a bit of background information to the railways. Infrastructure manager, we are an infrastructure manager and a railway undertaking. So we as well as maintaining the railway, we also run the railway operations. We have a total of 340 kilometres of line, and last year we recorded just over 13 million passengers. And to facilitate that, we have 43 regional train sets and 4 Belfast to Dublin Enterprise train sets. So that's 178 passenger carriages in total. Our maximum line speed is 90 miles per hour, and on that network of 340 kilometres, we have 132 crossings, and I'll now give you a breakdown of those crossings. So public roads, we have 20 full barrier crossing. That's the crossings that the barriers extend the full width of the road. And we have also 42 automatic half barrier crossings. I'll go on to explain these in depth later on and just some of the features of those crossings. We have 49 user work crossings on the active network. This slide is actually outdated because we actually closed another crossing on Friday, thankfully. So as I go on to talk about mitigations, one of the mitigations is closure. So we're actually down to 48. That comprises of 15 miniature stoplight crossings. So they have an active warning when a train is approaching. We then have 23 that are fitted with telephones, and these telephones are a direct link to the control and signal cabin. And we have 10 stop, look and listen crossings, which are dependent on sighting of approaching trains. We also have a station barrow path with a warning light, but this is only for staff and it's situated at one of our major stations. And then, as well as that, we have 21 stop, look and listen crossings, which are situated on a line that isn't active for passenger services. That's the line that you're hearing a lot of information about it at the minute. It's the Lisburn-Dantrim line. So how do we manage the crossings on the network? So a lot of this stuff is part and parcel of managing any risk within any environment. So the first thing we do is we risk assess. We use a model called the All Level Crossings Risk Model. And some of the main features within that is traffic census. So we look at the real traffic moment and also the road traffic moment. So those are our two main features within it. And also obviously the real movements on the crossing is also relevant to the activations at that crossing. We look at road speed surveys as well, so it's good to know what speed vehicles are doing on approach to level crossings at public roads, and also line side feature survey. So that's a very big element of it, is actually identifying what are the features trackside that could cause problems should there be a collision at a crossing. We do periodic maintenance inspections, and that's either by individuals, by teams, or by, at our public road crossings, we do multi-agency group inspections, which is great. It's great to have that collaboration between different agencies to go out and look and try and manage the risk presented at those crossings through maintenance issues. We carry out our repairs within specified timeframes, depending on the severity of the defect. We also, for our private crossings, we hold details of known users. And this is really, really important should we want to do work or make changes to the line in those areas, or if there are misuse issues, it's good to be able to talk to those individuals and also get information from them on how to use their crossing, advise them on how to use their crossing, and just work with them in partnership. Stakeholder engagement, so individuals who are involved in crossings, we would engage with. We also, in some cases, we maybe get involved with road service, with councils, with other groups that would have stakeholder responsibilities with those crossings. Another big area is incident reporting and analysis. So it's really, really important that we capture all the issues that are happening at our level crossings. So whether it be misuse, whether it be maintenance issues, whether it be a defect that has reoccurred, it's good to analyse that, check, and see what we need to be doing to rectify that. We also have incident investigations. It's all part and parcel of managing any risk. So if there's an incident, we will investigate it. If it's misuse, we may have to go down a different route. And then, as well as that, we have numerous projects in managing the risk at level crossings, and that's either upgrades, closures, or maintenance projects to just to bring things up to a much higher standard. So what do we do to mitigate the risk, and what are our mitigation measures? I have 5 listed here, but there are probably so many more, and some of them are quite minor, but these are the key areas that we look at. So elimination of risk at private crossings. So we have engaged extensively for decades now. At one point, there was probably close to 400 crossings on the network. We're now down to 132 or 131. And that is done by engaging with stakeholders, engaging with landowners, and we do this mainly by buying the rights, and that's simply when the user maybe doesn't need the crossing anymore because of another way in. So we can buy the rights. We also, if that's not possible, we look at land purchase. So a lot of the crossings give access to small parcels of land. We're able to engage with the individual and buy that land. We also look at engineering solutions. This could be building an alternative access laneway. So usually that involves engaging with a third party and building a laneway through their land that then gives the crossing owner access to their property. We've built underpasses and also over bridges, another way to get into the land that's been affected. Obviously, an overbridge would be built where there's large portions of land, not small portions of land. Reduction in risk. So that's crossing upgrades. So in the past, we have upgraded half barrier crossings to full barriers. We've upgraded some small pedestrian crossings to crossings with active warning systems, and maybe even barriers installed as well to help prevent people from misusing those crossings. Like I say, we've installed active warning systems, and we also have installed telephones at a number of crossings around the network as well. Those telephones give a link to the signal cabin. And then again, just improved infrastructure assets. So improved surfacing, improved gates, improved fencing, all the things that make up a crossing. We've done a lot of work to bring them up to a much better standard. Education is another powerful mitigation measure. So we get out, we have a good database of users at private crossings. We go out to, it was alluded there to earlier, but going to shows. We go to shows, we go to colleges, we go to schools, and we educate as many people as we can, and we can help target areas going by our incident reporting system. If we see an area becomes a hotspot area, we go out and we'll target, potentially target the age bracket that are maybe misusing that crossing. Enforcement, we have CCTV at many of our crossings now, and we also have CCTV on our trains. So if there is misuse and we identify the individual, there can be enforcement carried out on that individual. And then obviously audit is a powerful tool to just make sure that we are doing what we need to be doing, and it may also help highlight something that we're not doing as well as we should be. This is just a picture. I was saying earlier about mitigation measures. This is an overbridge that we built a couple of years ago, and this was to close 5 crossings on a piece of railway between Ballymoney and Coleraine. So a lot of work to do this, a lot of engagement, stakeholder engagement, but you can see the clear benefit: 5 crossings closed. in totality, and it gives users a safe alternative route into their property. I'm going on to the rest of the slides are mainly pictures, but it's just to give people a feel of what the crossings that I've spoke about, and just to give a bit of background to them. Obviously, if you do need to use a crossing in the future, please speak to our team. We'll get you information specific to that crossing and help you put in a safe system of work should you need to use them crossings. This is a full barrier crossing. You can see the barriers extend right across the railway. This is monitored and controlled by a signaller, either remotely or close by, and they ensure that the crossing is fully clear before they allow the train to proceed past the protecting signal that is protecting that crossing. There's also skirts there to stop anybody trying to climb under the barriers as well, and you can see there's the wigwags. The wigwags are the lights that flash at the crossing. This is our safest type of crossing. Like I say, we on our network, we have a third of the crossings are this type on public roads. So, and we have in recent years upgraded some of our AHBs to MCBs, manually controlled barriers. This is an AHB. This crossing actually no longer. This is a crossing that's in Cullibaki. This is no longer actually an AHB. This has been upgraded to an MCB. But it's just to let you see, the weather conditions as well can add additional hazards to our crossings. But this particular crossing is an automatic half barrier crossing. So this crossing is activated by the approach of a train, and usually in normal circumstances, when the amber light comes on till the train arrives, is around sort of 30 seconds till the train arrives at the crossing normally, unless there's something that's slowing the trains down. But you can see that the barrier lowers to block the entrance route to the crossing, but the exit route is left open just to allow anybody to leave that area should they find themselves on the crossing for whatever reason. Again, there's the flashing lights. There's also a telephone installed at this crossing. Should you need to cross with a large, slow vehicle or with animals, you would use the telephone to request permission to cross. And that's because this is not monitored by cameras, by a signaller, and it is an automated crossing. So you need to ensure you have adequate time to cross with a slower vehicle or with livestock. Again, this is shown, you can just see in the bottom left-hand side of this picture, there is a crossing there. That again is an automatic half barrier crossing. But you can see from the slides, we are out in the countryside. We're in built up areas. We're in villages. We're in towns. Crossings can be anywhere around Northern Ireland. And I think that's one of the issues. People may be unfamiliar with areas or driving along roads and they don't realise that they're coming to a level crossing, and sometimes they haven't paid attention to the advanced signage that's there, and they end up hitting a barrier or driving across a crossing. But you can see, like, this is, had it not been for a train there, you maybe wouldn't have realised from this image that the railway was there and there was a level crossing present. Now I'm going to talk, those are our public road crossings. These next few slides are talking about our private crossings, which are found normally on privately owned land. That's where the majority of them would be, but there are some in small villages. But this is known as a crossing with a miniature stoplight. It also has a supporting telephone. So again, like the other crossings, you'll have a warning light that will indicate whether it's safe to cross or not. It gives you a warning time of approximately 40 seconds. But should you need to cross in a vehicle that's going to take longer than that, or a long, large, slow vehicle, or with livestock, you would use the telephone to contact the signaller and ask for permission to cross. And he will, by looking at his indications on a signal panel, he'll be able to give permission to cross or not, depending on where the train proximity is. This is the next level down. This is a crossing that's fitted with a telephone. So every time you need to cross at a crossing like this, in vehicles or with livestock, you must use the telephone to get permission to cross, and you'll see it there. And that's what the phones look like. You open the spring-loaded door and there's a receiver inside, and as soon as you lift the receiver off the cradle, it starts to ring through to the signal cabin. Now, if the signaller is in the middle of a job or dealing with another situation, they may not answer the phone straight away, so you would have to just wait and telephone back. But once they're able to take the call, they will then indicate whether it's safe to cross or not. Once it's safe to cross, a time frame will be agreed, and then you can proceed to cross, and then you must telephone back within that time frame, obviously after you've shut the gates. This then is, we have very few of these crossings left on the active network now. This is known as a stop, look and listen crossing. It doesn't have a telephone installed, but there is a telephone number displayed on the sign. And should you need to cross with livestock or with extremely slow vehicles, you would ring that telephone number and it would get you through to the signal cabin that manages that piece of track. You can see from this one, it is reliant on sighting. So as a user, you would proceed to the decision point, and then you would look left and right. And if a train was approaching, obviously you would cross. But once you would know it's safe to cross, then you can proceed over the crossing. And like I say, there is a telephone number there. Should you need to take livestock over or a slow vehicle, you ring the telephone number. And as with the earlier crossing there, you would get permission, an agreed time frame, and you would cross within that and then ring back again. So look, thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate that. I'll now hand over to Robert McDonald, who will be covering third-party works around the railway. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Really good slides there to kind of show the network in Northern Ireland and the risk. I'll now share some of my slides on working around the railway. Okay, hopefully that's sharing okay.
So yeah, yes, we can see it, Robert.
Translink third-party works. This is the name we give to works around the railway, not by Translink. So my name's Robert McDonald. I'm third-party works manager. My background is in construction, civil engineering. I've maybe 20 odd years experience working for consultancies, and then now in my role of the public sector. So really what this is about is raising awareness. If you're working beside the railway, what do you need to do? Who do you need to speak to? So we've created this awareness campaign to help support you, help give some information on where to go and when to contact us. So that's it. That's why we put the slides together. We're going to explain the risks and why it's needed. We're going to explain the distances, where and when, how much notice to give, and then how to contact us. So really the main purpose is to support your works, your development around the railway. We don't want to be a blocker to construction or development in Northern Ireland. We want to support that. But we're all here together as yourselves, a lot of health and safety professionals, and ourselves here in the railway, which is a safety critical environment. We want to get the work done safely. So we're tasked then internally with protecting the safe passage of trains. Don't want to delay the trains, and we want to get them to their destination safely with all the passengers on the board. And obviously it poses a risk as well to the assets potentially on the railway. And that can be the works that are being completed by yourselves, posing a risk to our assets, or what you've built, then it needs to be maintained in the future. So the asset, if it is defective or fails, it doesn't put the railway at risk again then in the future. So we call this really the requirements for this third-party works procedures. We've created a website for this, and essentially where you have to notify us is 50 metres from the railway or 200 metres from a level crossing. So the 50 meters from the railway, that's for big things like cranes and works on slopes, excavations, flood risk. Around the level crossing, is it's street works. So it's in the street works legislation, and the railway owns that piece of highway. We're the highway authority for the level crossing, the road in around it. So that's where that requirement comes. I'll explain a wee bit about that later. Okay, so a part of that campaign, we've produced some materials to help make it easier, help communicate when and where to contact us, where the risks lie. So we're just going to follow from top right down to bottom left. Don't worry, I know that the text is a bit small, but this is for a poster that we can share around. People can put up in their offices, especially with our main asset owners or main clients. So on the top right, it's works over the railway, so an overbridge really. The risk there, if you can see from the excavators, is obvious. If the excavator swings round with a load, it could shed its load onto the train or onto the line. As well as that, if there's excavation or breaking out, that can dislodge material from the soffit of the bridge or tunnel, which again can affect the train and basically safety critical passage of the train. So anything on the line as well can derail a train if it's at a certain size and weight. Okay, moving down to number 2, what we call these adjacent works. So this is your works anywhere adjacent up to 50 meters away from the railway. And a lot of the risks there are your general construction risks. So this could be any type of development, private house building, commercial, local authorities, government schemes, and would want to consult as far in advance as possible, planning stage, right through design stage and into construction. So we have a best chance of mitigating the risks and understanding the railway requirements. As you can see, some of the risks here are excavators too close, maybe swinging the bucket out in front of the train, or a crane or any lifting of apparatus, the failure and collapse onto the railway. Moving on down then, the third one is works on or near the line. So that's actually access required within the railway boundary. All these works require advance notice, and we need enough notice to plan a safe system. It's your requirement really to do it under a safe system under the railway requirements. We'll make it easy for you. We'll chat you through that. We'll help you come up with a safe system that's appropriate for the works. And you can see here in this example, it's utility company wanting to inspect their poles or maintain their poles. In this example, for ease, there's a train approaching. A lot of that work would be done at night outside the passage of trains. And that's why it takes a lot of notice in advance to arrange. But there can be some works we can arrange during the day in certain safe systems, where there's enough gaps between trains or there's enough distance to keep you safe. But all that needs arranged in advance. Essentially, if you cross the boundary to the railway, it's trespass really. So that's treated serious because of the obvious risk of somebody getting hit by a train. What we would say is these trains can't swerve and they can't stop very easily. A train at 90 mile an hour can take 2 kilometers to stop. So you can see why it's safety critical, why we have to protect the safe passage of trains. Okay, moving down to number 4. This is under the railway, or what we call under track crossings. So any new service utilities wanting to cross the railway, it's usually done by under track crossing. And those are more major type of works. They would require at least 6 months notice to get through all the design, planning and construction stages. Some of the more minor works, we could get it done with maybe 6 to 8 weeks notice. but these require a lot more technical requirements to make sure the track doesn't settle, and we have to monitor the track as well during those. So those are the ones we require the most notice. Okay, moving down to number 5. This is works around level crossings. So really this is about street works. This is about traffic management. In this example, you can see the roadworks are going on and the lorries servicing them might need a stop. Let's say if that wasn't planned well enough and the traffic was allowed to continue through, this traffic would start to block back. And as you can see, that red, orange car would come onto the tracks, couldn't go forward. Blue car comes in behind. The car maybe can't go back. And as the train approaches, the lights start to flash. The barriers come down if it's automatic crossing. And that car's trapped. And again, if this train's doing 90 miles an hour, it won't stop for 2 kilometers, even if it sees the car on the track. So that's why we want you to notify and consult with us in advance, and we'll review your safe system, work with you to make it safe. Okay, lastly, one of the examples we've shown here is what we call boundary works. These are very similar to adjacent works. But we want to highlight this because it's any work around the boundary has the potential to open up a trespass risk if we remove the fence or even the vegetation, whatever's at the boundary. If it's removed without consulting with us, it opens up a very real risk of trespass, and trespass can equal somebody getting hit by a train. The other one is the excavation itself can undermine or destabilize the railway embankment, or create flood risks. So this is anyone from government clients, private, to even, commercial, even private individuals working along the boundary. So that's why we'd want to highlight the risk. Okay. Just highlighting here a few of our what we call work streams. So essentially, we consult with yourselves or with the third party, right from planning stages through design to construction. So any planning applications that get notified to the council around the railway, the council should notify ourselves, and we will be one of the consultees to return comments. Now, we're not always notified, so it's up to yourselves, the third parties, to notify us and consult with us. But if it does go through the planning process, we will return comments. Third-party work stage, then we handle about 100 of these projects at a time around the railway. And those can be anything from 6-8 weeks right up to numbers of years for major projects. Works around level crossings. As we mentioned, that's the traffic management risk of blocking back. And that's about a month's notice. We look for those. Can turn it around a lot quicker, but we ask for a month's notice. As well, then we like to get out to site. We like to come and visit your sites, particularly on the bigger sites. We'll go before the works, planning it out, during the works at various phases, and then after for reinstatement. We ride in the cab of the train as well to check progress of things, spot any unnotified works, and we also react and run out quickly when we're not notified or there's a risk. We look at the assets then when they're built, the permanent works, let's say for bridges, retaining walls, even utility poles, anything with the chance to collapse, fail, fall down if it's not inspected and maintained. So we have a process to ensure the third party inspects those regularly, and we can facilitate that access. Or if they're completing repairs, we can again work on a safe system. And last, then, one of the things we look at now is road vehicle incursions. Essentially, where the road comes near the railway, either parallel roads, car parks, or over bridges, and we look at the risk of the vehicle going through the boundary. So it's really crash barriers, things like that. Looking at that risk and and mitigating them. Okay, and that's just the flow cycle from planning through the works on site, and then the management of the assets, and then obviously when it gets inspected and maintained, that goes back around to third-party works again. And now I'm going to give a wee break from here, me talking, and
our top priority is the safety.
I'll put on a wee video here that we've created. Just give us a second and I'll open that up. Yeah, just going to play this wee video.
Third-party works around the railway. Third-party works is when a party not employed by TransLink intends to undertake work or use equipment over, under, or beside the railway network, which could potentially affect the safety of the railway. And advanced notification should always be given to the TransLink third-party works team, even if works are to be undertaken on private lands. Our team will work with you to ensure the safe operation of the railway is maintained while your works are being completed. Third-party works typically applies where any works are within 50 metres of a railway boundary. You should also notify the TransLink third-party works team of any roadworks within 200 metres of a level crossing, including works further away where there is a risk of traffic blocking back to the crossing. TransLink treats safety and any trespass risk of the highest importance. You can contact the team by calling 02890 666 630 or by emailing thirdpartyworks@translink.co.uk. You can also find more helpful information at translink.co.uk/third-party-works.
Okay, hopefully that's helpful there. We've also created, that's just to raise initial awareness. We've also created a website. So the video, all the information we send out brings you to the website. So this is your central source for information. Again, a planning stage if you want to go in, at design stage, construction stages. We've got our procedures in here. So there's the video, our procedures, how to work with us, all the rules, the high level rules. But essentially, once you talk to us, we'll work through it with you. We'll try and make it easy for you. There's safety critical competencies as well. If you need on the railway, you'll need to pass the medicals and the training before going on the track, unless it's a one-off temporary visit. The information on works around level crossings, and again, some planning guidance. But really the easiest thing is when you go on here, go to contact us. And if you want to send an inquiry in, send it to that email and my whole team will pick it up. We'll allocate you an engineer who will respond and work through, understand your proposals, meet on site if needed, and work through the proposals with you. We'll let you know the requirements and then try to solve the requirements to make it safe. So if you formally know you've got a job, you can fill out this wee request form. It helps to highlight all the risks and the areas that you're working on, and we can work through that together. Then the last part before you actually start on site is we need permission to proceed. So it's basically a permit to work system. So that's that last form for the more major works. We work through a permit for each step affecting the railway. Okay, so returning to the awareness campaign information then. That's our website, our video, we're on social media, and we've created some in-person print leaflets and posters that we can use to help, and we're going to roll those out digitally. You can scan this QR code to get to the website, or just type in third-party works into Google. It should come up top of the search, and we'll show this again at the end. So one of the main things we want to do is make it easy to talk, make it easy to take you through the process. So essentially, once you contact us, we'll allocate you a single engineer to work through your whole project with you. And they'll speak to the client, the contractor, the consultant, the health and safety professionals, speak to the statutory authorities like planning, your traffic management people at each stage of the project. We'll try to understand all your proposals, and then we'll let you know the requirements around the railway. So this is done via these forums in a more formal format. Then what we can do is consult with all the internal departments affected. As Keith was saying, we are an infrastructure company. We maintain all the infrastructure and build all the infrastructure, such as structures, your track, and your signal and telecom cables. But as well, we run the trains, so real operations. There's lands, legals, safety assurance, and then there's other projects that might impact your works. So this is the kind of thing we have to coordinate, and that's why we like to allocate an engineer to talk with you and talk you through all this. Okay, so what's the main reason for it? It's the risks. It's the risk to people, the risk to train derailment. If there's anything that disturbs the tracks, that's an earthworks sort of washout there from somebody digging and working just at a field above the railway. That's an example of the wrong type of traffic management, and then the conflict and lights on level crossings. And one of our common risks there is excavators construction plan around the railway. So how do we do it then? There's a number of safe systems around the railway. So essentially in the top left, you can work during the day in certain places. In between the passage of trains, if there's enough of a gap, we can arrange a possession. So that obviously takes a lot of arrangements. That's only in certain areas of country and only for short duration. But essentially in the top right, most of our works is done at night, outside the passage of trains. And that's not to say there isn't trains at night, because there's engineering trains. You can expect a train to run at any time, but we can arrange for there be no trains in that section of track. Safety staff go out, make it safe, and that's how we get the majority of our work done. Bottom left, we can work further away during live trains, and this is an example of a long reach excavator working with a slew restrictor and restrictions so that it can't spin around and shed its load or put its bucket out in front of the train. And again, we could work in very close with enough planning here with any water, taking a section of the railway, hoard it off, and tunneling from this pit down alongside the railway. We've got excavators the right distance away so that they can't come in contact with the train. Okay, and then just a little example here to show the risk of blocking back. What's the works at level crossings about? So essentially, if it's not planned well and it's too close here with the wrong type of lights, the cars can back up, and then eventually this black car might be stuck on the crossing and the next car in behind it, train's approaching and it's no way out. So that's what's called blocking back, and that's what we want to avoid. Last few slides then to show some of these examples then. This is a safe system, so full road closure around the level crossing. Sorry, the slide's a wee bit grainy there. Is ideal. Track possession as well at night if there's more high risk works near the railway. But if it's quiet area in terms of traffic and we can go off peak, we can work with the third parties to get the work done safely off peak during daylight hours. Then lastly, once it's built, some of the third party works, they need to be inspected, maintained. So we work with third parties to inspect culverts, inspect bridges, get access to the line as needed. Okay, and that's just a wrap up in summary. Where do you go for information? Onto our website, TransLink Third Party Works. When to contact us then, in advance as much notice as you can give. Say for the bigger major projects, it could be 6 months or more notice required to get through the planning stages, design, approvals, and get to site. Some of the more minor works, we can maybe get it arranged sort of 6-8 weeks out. So any queries at all, just drop us an email. We'll allocate you an engineer, and they'll chat with you, understand your proposals, and tell you all the information you need to know. There is information as well for any emergencies. So to assume that's only when people are really working around the railway. Then if there's any issues, they can go on and get that information. But if you are working around the railway, we'll give you specific emergency information for your project. Okay, folks, thank you for listening. I say this information should be available. I think Wendy's making it available. There's a QR code there if you want to scan, or you can type in third party works into Google. It should bring you to our website.